Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much for coming in and watch this video. Greatly appreciate you guys doing that. And what we're going to talk about today is going to be really quick, see where Bitcoin is, and then we're going to look at the Bitcoin miners versus Bitcoin versus past week, and then we'll take a look at how the miners performed in March, and then over basically the last 12 months, and see which ones are in the top 5, top 7, something like that. And we'll call it a day, and then we'll get into the Q&A side of things. So hold your questions until the end. And as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research and invest in following coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And the corrections will be posted to Discord, through Patreon, and YouTube, community posts, and Twitter as well, if we have any mistakes that are in there. Let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin really quick. It did breach 71,000 a day again. So it's trying to battle its way through the kind of the resistance that we're kind of at right now. And I think eventually it will get back above 70,000, whether it's this week or next week. It's going to definitely happen. Right now, we're kind of on an upward trend, which is nice to see. On the daily chart, we're still seeing that the RSI is still actually pretty low here, which is nice to see as well. So I think we have a lot more good going for us than we do have bad. And we'll see where Bitcoin goes into the halving. We're only 12 days away roughly right now, which after that, I would imagine things would get better. But we'll take a look at it. Okay, so that's Bitcoin right now. It's roughly at 69,253, somewhere around there. It's pulled back a little bit, but not much. All right, so let's take a look at the things that we wanted to cover today, which is obviously the miners, see how they performed over the last week here along with Bitcoin, see how they compared to Bitcoin. And then we always look at this chart here, which shows us how far up the miners are from the 52-week lows, and also how far away they are from the 52-week highs, which are the red bars down here. So looking at it right now still, we've seen this for the last couple of weeks where Cleanspark has been the dominant winner here so far out of the miners compared to Bitcoin and everybody else. They've obviously done a lot of good things. And we'll get into some of the metrics that we will take a look at here, how they did for March and for the last 12 months. And you guys will see how they placed in that as well. But Cleanspark number one here, obviously, way up from everybody else. They're only 37% away from their 52-week high here. So they've obviously come back down from, which was just what, 3 weeks ago that their high was reached. So they are down from that. Bitcoin is only 8% away from its 52-week high here. And it's up 173% from the bottom in 52 weeks, right? So that's obviously pretty good. Mawson is one that has done a little bit better than Bitcoin. Mawson, but like I keep saying with Mawson, I think there's really no reason for it to be up so much other than possibly manipulation on the stock a little bit. They don't have a lot of shares out. So I think that's what happened there. Then you got TeraWolf up 164%, right? They've been doing a lot better recently, which is nice to see. Also, if you guys didn't catch the conversation that we had with Patrick, their CFO, today on the Twitter Spaces, check that out. You guys can find me on Twitter at Sebastian_ski. And in there, you'll find probably a link to it. The recording is up there. But there was obviously a lot of great questions done by Penny and others as well, by Anthony as well. And Patrick was kind enough to obviously take the time and answer all those questions, which was fantastic. But a lot of good stuff in there. Marathon up 157% here, BitDeer up 154, Bitfarms 152. So they're all pretty close to each other here, and Bitcoin obviously being up 173%, so still a little bit under for where Bitcoin is. And that's kind of typically what we would see with the miners, especially as we get closer to the halving event. Obviously the outlier here is Cleanspark, and Cleanspark has been obviously performing really well. And then we got DMG and everybody else down below here. You got Hive doing the worst here, I guess you could say. It's only up 15% from its 52-week lows. You got Riot up 18% as well. There's reasons why Riot is there, right? Their operations are having a hard time. Then you got CORZ 32%. They changed tickers, and they also just got a bankruptcy, so there's a reason for that. HUT, same thing, right? A lot of FUD around HUT in the last couple of months. That didn't help them out with some of the short reporting that came out on them. Also, the change in CEOs, the change in strategy, it seems like, with self-mining and everything else. So that's why the stock is down where it's at. Yeah, Bit Digital and so forth, so on through here. You can see how everybody's stacked up. But looking at the last week here, how everybody has done, we can see that Bitcoin for the last week, and I track this Friday to Friday, is actually down 3% from those two dates. The miners that have done better than Bitcoin are Argo, which is only down 2%, along with BitDeer down 2%. Then you got Bit Digital only up 1%, Core up 2%, Hive up 4%, Digihost up 6%, along with DMG. And then IREN had a nice week, was up 11% as well. They came out stating that they were fully funded to 20 exahash, which is obviously good news. And that's obviously what kicked off the stock for that. Right now, if Bitcoin continued going up higher into the week, I think IREN could have probably caught like a 30 or 40% increase in price. But we had the downward pressure on Bitcoin, and they didn't improve as much as we probably would have liked to have seen there. Worst one here for the week was Cleanspark, down 20%. Obviously, right, we had the timing that was kind of bad on their part, where Matt sold a day before they announced an ATM increase of 800 million. The ATM announcement was also confusing. I don't think that actually helped. And then we had, obviously, Zach sell the week prior to that. So it was just a lot of things that were put on top of the selling pressure, I think, in Cleanspark. That's why they're down 20%, which was kind of to be expected. And then you got Cypher down 12%, Mawson as well, 12%, Marathon the same. So it wasn't that bad of a week, but we were still down for the majority of the miners here, as you can see here on this one. Going to 4 weeks out now, we can see here that Bitcoin at this point is only down 2% from 4 weeks ago. And Cypher has done the best. It's up 31%, followed by TeraWolf being up 15%, and everybody else has done worse here in the 4 weeks. You can see the numbers there. On the 8 weeks, things definitely change around here a little bit. Bitcoin's up 30%, so the ones that have done better are TeraWolf up 32%, Iris Energy up 48%, you got Cypher up 51%, and Cleanspark up 88% still, even from there. And then these guys here have underperformed. Mawson being down 45%, Riot only down 9%, Stronghold down 21%, Sphere down 34%. Okay, then looking at the 12 weeks chart here, things really changed there. We can see here that Bitcoin at this point is up 63%. So that has outperformed everybody else here over the last 12 weeks, with Cleanspark being closest to him, up 53% on it. Then we got TeraWolf being up 22% and Cypher up 4%, right? And everybody else has done worse than Bitcoin in the last 12 weeks. It's kind of fun to take a look at it, see how things stack up on there. And then you can see this table here, kind of like the heat map, as far as each week, how that has performed. And we can see here that we've had kind of a mixed couple of three weeks, I would say, maybe even 5 weeks here. Really, if you look at it here, you can definitely see a lot more red here that we've seen in the past. And it goes in spurts, right? We'll have a red week, a green week, and sometimes we'll go in a spurt where we have 4 or 5 weeks that are in the green and 4 or 5 weeks where we're in the red. But it's kind of nice to see how that changes over time here, where you can see here we had obviously more red weeks here in the beginning of the year. Prior to that, we had obviously a lot more green weeks here going into the end of the year, and then we kind of have been going back and forth a little bit here on it. So that is how that has stacked up for the past week, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, and 12 weeks. It's always good to see what's going on in a little bit longer time frame on these miners here. Okay, so that's it for that one. Let's take a look at the monthly numbers here for them. And I should have updated this. It should have been March. So forgive me on that. March 2024, top 5 Bitcoin miners operations. We're looking at month-over-month hash rate growth, BTC percentage sold, Bitcoin per exahash, efficiency, and then month-over-month BTC mined percentage increase or decrease, BTC mined, days mined, curtail, current hash rate, and HODL. Those two are the ones that I take out for the 6 and 8 metrics, right? So all 8 metrics include all these. The 6 metrics don't include current hash rate or HODL, right? We're looking more on the operation side of things as far as how have they been operating on those. Okay, so going down here, we can see here month-over-month percentage hash rate growth. We see that Iris has had the most growth percentage-wise. They were up 14.29%, followed by Hive being up 11.8%. Cypher was up 3.1%. Cleanspark was up 2.62%. Core was up 2.12%, and then TeraWolf was up 1.28%. A couple of the miners that have not reported yet, which we don't have data for them, are Sphere 3D, Mawson, and Annie, which I don't. Where's Sphere 3? Oh, Sphere 3D is that one. Mawson and Stronghold. Stronghold's not even in here anymore. I don't think. I must have missed it. Okay, yep. So Stronghold's not in here. Sorry, I missed that one, but they didn't report yet, so they're out anyways. But then you got a bunch of them that were basically flat on the month, and then you had Marathon actually have an increase or decrease because they're moving miners from other facilities to another facility. And that's the reason why for that. And you got current hash rate. Obviously, Marathon is the biggest one out of the bunch here with 25.6 roughly. Core is the second one with 19.3 exahash. Cleanspark in number 3 spot with 16 exahash. And then you got Riot at 12.4 exahash roughly. And then you got TeraWolf at 7.9. And those are kind of the top 5 there. And you can see how everybody else stacks up, where some of the smaller miners, DMG, Digihost, Mawson as well, are towards the bottom there. Then looking at BTC per exahash efficiency, higher is better. So we're looking at the actual, I'm looking at the numbers for what is actually installed and should be operating. So if they report that they're, like for Riot, for instance, if they're saying that they're at 12.4 exahash, whoops, like you can see here, 12.4 exahash, but they're actually operating on average about 8 exahash. I'm using 12.4 to come up with the numbers here for what the BTC was mined for that. Okay, that's how we're getting the BTC per hash efficiency on it. So BitDigital came in number 1 here for the month of March, 49.96, followed by Cleanspark with 49.07. Then we got Hive at 47.67, TeraWolf at 47.37, Core at 46.94. So there's your top 5 there. And you got some of the other ones down here. And you can see obviously Riot, because of the issues that they have at the facility, they're at 34.28. And Marathon was actually lower than them at 31.27 because they're also having, operations issues. So they're down at the bottom here. Okay. Looking at month over month BTC mine percentage. So an increase is obviously better. With some of the smaller miners, if they increase their hash rate by just a little bit, it has a huge impact on them, more so than it does on the bigger miners. But I still like to look at this. So Digihost came in at number 1 with 51.67 BTC mined more. Cleanspark with 24.38. Second spot, Iris with 13.87 more. So that's number 3 spot. Hive with 12% more, number 4 spot. And then Argo is at 11.96%. So those are the top 5 here for that. And the worst ones are, I wouldn't include Sphere because they haven't reported. Also, where's we got Sphere and Mawson. Where's Mawson in here? Mawson's not in here. Unless I'm blind. It's not. Okay. So Mawson's out of that one. Hive was down 20.89%, and that's mainly because they also shut down some of their miners and are moving miners around right now. So that's why they're down at the bottom here. Cypher was down 5.39%, and Bitfarms was down 4.67% as well. Okay. Now, BTC mined here, we have obviously Core coming in at number 1 spot. Excuse me, and this is for self-mining only for all these guys. Core came in at number 1 with 906, followed by Cleanspark at 806. Marathon came in at 3rd spot with 772, and that's based on what they report from our pool. Riot was 425. Then you got TeraWolf at 379. So that's kind of like your top 5 there right now. And you got Iris not too far behind that, along with Cypher, BitDeer, Bitfarms. And then towards the bottom, you got obviously the smaller miners as well. And then days mined, this is where it helps knowing what they actually have installed and everything else. I got Cleanspark with 31 along with Hive for 31 days out of the month, so pretty much full uptime there. BitDigital came in a little bit under that at 30.97. TeraWolf came in at, I guess this would be 3rd spot with 29.72. Then you got Core in number 4 spot with 29.29, and Argo with 28.83 days, so number 5 spot on that one. And you got Iris followed it as well in 28 days along with Digihost. You got Bitfarms at 27, BitDeer 27, Hut at 26, Cypher at 25, along with DMG, and then Riot was down to 21, and Marathon was about 19 days out of the month in operation. Going down here to HODL. Obviously, Marathon has the biggest HODL here at 17,381 Bitcoins, followed by Hut 8 with 9,102. You got Riot with 8,490, and then you got Cleanspark with 5,021, and Hive at 2,287. So those are the top 5 for HODL, right? That's obviously great when they have a HODL going into the halving event, especially Bitcoin price going up. All that value now can be utilized in the new FASB rules if they are using the FASB rules, unless they're like in Canada or someplace or in other jurisdictions where I don't think that you will be able to utilize that. Okay, so that's how that stacked up here. BTC percentage sold. So we're looking obviously who sold the least amount, because that way they can HODL into the halving event. And I think we'll probably maybe change this metric going forward after we're the halving event, because we really don't want the miners, I'll have to think about this, but we really don't want the miners holding too much of their HODL, especially with Bitcoin price getting up to 150,000 or 200,000. We really want to see them kind of selling their HODL a little bit more. Right, nobody's going to be able to time the market perfectly and buy at the top. We don't know where it's going to go. But some selling I would expect, or more so than we are seeing recently here going into the halving event. Okay, but here's the way it's stacked up. Cleanspark sold the least amount of the Bitcoin, 0.04%, or 0.4%, sorry, followed by Riot with 0.5%, and then we got Cypher at 2.5%, BitDigital at 20.2%, and Hive at 30.4%. So those are the top 5 here for least amount sold. Marathon came in at number 6 spot with 57.4%, Bitfarms at 99.3%, and then everybody else here sold more, or at least 100% or more. Hut 8 actually sold more, 103% of their HODL, so what they generated and what they actually sold. Core also sold 108, and that's based on them getting the BTC from hosting as well, right? Because they don't have a HODL or anything like that. DMG sold also 116% as well, right? So I think that is all of it. So based on all those metrics, on the 8 metrics here, the winner for March came in at this way. Cleanspark came in number 1 spot, followed by Hive, number 2 spot. Core and Iris were tied for 3rd spot. 4th came in with TeraWolf, and number 5 spot came in at Bit Digital on that one. And then we got Sphere 3D Mawson obviously towards the end because they didn't report. So those are how those numbers stacked up there. But other than that, DMG was the worst one here out of the month, along with Argo and Hut 8, followed by Bitfarms, BitDeer, Digihost, Cypher, and so forth. Okay, that's based on all 8 metrics. Now, if we take out HODL and the current hash rate, we get this kind of rating here. Cleanspark still came in number 1 with 12 points. Hive came in at number 2 with 26 points. Iris at number 3 spot with 31. BitDigital with 33. Terra with number 5 spot with 34. Then you got Core, obviously, and then you got Digihost, Cypher, and you got then Riot and BitDeer tied, and Argo, Marathon, Bitfarms, and all the rest here going that way. So that's kind of the way things look there on that metric. And then when we just quickly look at the miners here, how they performed overall on each of the metrics, we'll start out with the number 1 here. Obviously, Cleanspark, you can see how well they've done. They were pretty much under 5 for all of these, and a lot of these were just 2s and 1 points, which are obviously better. Lower scores are better. Then you got Hive, kind of mixed up here somewhere around the lines. High on BTC mined, high on current hash rate, right? So that's not good. And you got Core. Core also pretty good here, a little high on month-over-month BTC mine percentage. BTC HODL, obviously they didn't HODL much or anything. BTC sold, they've been selling everything, so they're going to get dinged on that. Iris here as well, kind of average for the most part, it looks like. Then we got TeraWolf. This is how they stacked up on all these metrics. Bit Digital, you can see that as well. Marathon, obviously really bad BTC per exahash efficiency, really bad for days mined as well. Really good on current hash rate and BTC HODL, right? Those two are really good for them. Then you got Riot here, pretty bad on BTC per exahash efficiency, days mined as well. Cypher was month-over-month BTC mine percentage increase, wasn't that great, and then kind of average across the board, pretty good on month-over-month percentage hash rate. Then you got Digihost, BitDeer, Bitfarms as well, kind of average across the board, kind of low on or high on month-over-month BTC mine percentage. Hut 8, same thing, kind of averaged. HODL obviously is good there, but month-over-month BTC percentage was down for them. Argo, kind of high on some things here, quite a few things actually. DMG, same thing, kind of high, above the 10 mark. You got Mawson here, they don't report along with Sphere. So we won't get into those. And here's the way the scores have came up, and then I just grade them all by 1 from the top to the bottom by 1, basically each point. And then when we look at the 12-month average score ranking here, so we're looking at the rankings for all these guys over the last 12 months. On all of these things, how they scored in the past, and Core, we only have 3 months of them. So the numbers are going to be kind of possibly in their favor a little bit here on that one. And here's how they fared right now. Cleanspark with 31 points on average, with number 1 spot Marathon, number 2 spot with 33, BitDeer, number 3 spot with 36, and you got Core at number 4 spot with 42, Bitfarms with 44, and number 5 spot on the 8 metrics. And you can see here how everybody else stacks up here. Going down to the 6 metrics, things still look the same here, or a little bit different. You got Cleanspark with 24 points now, still number 1 spot. Core with 31, Iris with 33, Hive with 34, Bit Digital with 35. So there's kind of like your top 5 on those metrics if you look at it over the last 12 months. And you got Digihost, Cypher, Bitfarms, Marathon, and the rest here, right? So surprisingly enough, Cleanspark has been scoring really well on these, and I think that is maybe why we're seeing the stock being so much higher valued, or at least the increase in stock for Cleanspark over the last 12 months has been so good, is because they've been operating so well here, just based on these metrics alone, right? But these metrics alone aren't everything. There's other metrics that we can look at to see how they're doing and everybody else. We'll take a look at the quarterly results probably later on this week as well. So we'll see how that has all played out quarter over quarter on the miners and things like that, and see where everybody came in at that point. Based on financials, HODL, things like that, which I think obviously give us a lot of information on the health of the company and what has changed over the last quarter and things like that. But that's how things have stacked up here so far. We'll see how things progress going forward. We got the halving event. That's obviously put strain on some of the miners here as well. And we'll see how they can actually grow going forward into the next 12 months, 16 months, 18 months, whatever it might be. And will they still maintain the same positions, or will Cleanspark get beat out by somebody else that's doing better? All right, we'll keep track of this. We'll see how they do going forward as well. All right, but that is it. Let's get into the questions here, and we'll call it a day here, I think. But as always, my little sales pitch for you guys here. This is the only sales pitch you guys get from me. Patreon members get access to all these spreadsheets. It's $8 a month there. You get also access to Discord server as well, which we have a lot of great people on there as well. A lot of great discussions there. And what else do we have here? I think that's it. It's $8 a month. Description is in the link down below. And then you might have some spots that are still open at like $5 and $4. So pretty cheap. All right, that is it. Let's get into the Q&A side of things. And as always, the Q&A is a little bit delayed as far as when you guys are hearing my voice and when I'm getting the comments and things like that. So be patient. I'll get through all your guys' questions as I go through them all, but it might take me a little while, okay? So let me go to my screen here on my computer so I can see what's going on here. All right. Okay. All right, we got some questions popping up here already. All right, so if BTC gets to 300,000, does that mean that Cleanspark could hit 250,000 with a multiplier of 4x to Bitcoin? Does that seem realistic? Well, if Bitcoin goes to 300,000, I mean, you're looking at Bitcoin going up basically, what is that, 4x, right? And then if you do a 3x on top of that, so you're looking at 12x potentially. So we're looking at potentially Cleanspark being around, what is that, 150, maybe 180, $200 a share. I mean, it could be possible, right? It also depends on how much they dilute, right? Dilution, the more shares there are, the harder it is for the stock to go higher, right? So we'll have to see on that one. But, you know, I'm not counting on Bitcoin getting to 300,000, at least not right now. We'll see. That might change. We do have the spot Bitcoin ETFs, which could obviously have a huge impact on the price of Bitcoin. We just don't know. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. Okay, next question. Sebastian, do you think it's worth getting a hold of Bitfarms to clarify some things? I think it's the time now. I enjoyed today's space on X, but Ben had a good chance to come on and chat. Yeah, we're trying to get Ben on for possibly next week, which is going to be on Saturday, I think, with the Bitcoin mining stock guy. We're trying to get that set up. We'll see if he'll join us or somebody from Bitfarms will join us. But I think we've covered it pretty well, that the story that's out from Paraguay, right, about the mining ban, we don't believe it's going to affect Bitfarms based on the reporting that we've seen. It seems like it's more towards the people that are illegally getting electricity or not paying the electricity bills on top of it. And that's kind of where the ban is going to be. It's going to be banned on new mining, right? Marathon's also in there with the joint venture. Bitfarms is obviously in there. There might be other miners in there as well. But those guys already have contracts in place. You know, they have good operational things in there. So I don't think it's going to affect them. But we'll see. We'll try to get the information from Ben possibly. Let's see. Can we have a look at the holdings of WGMI? WGMI, oh, let me see if I can pull that up for you guys. Let's see here. I know they own like Cleanspark. They own a lot of miners. WGMI holdings. Let's see here. Okay, I'm pulling it up on my screen here. I think these are probably the most recent ones here. So here's what we got. So they have Advanced Microsystems, Applied Digital, Argo Blockchain, Bitfarms, and when was this reported? Valkyrie. I don't even know when this was reported here. Cleanspark. Let's look at this by maybe weight. There we go. Weight, that's down, weight up. Okay. So Cleanspark is there. It looks like their biggest holding here. It's 16.38%. Iris Energy is their next one, 11.22%. Then you got Cypher, Marathon, BitDeer, NVIDIA chips, right? Hive Digital, Bitfarms, TeraWolf, and Bit Digital down here as well. So that's kind of the way things are set up for them right now. Okay, let's go back to the Q&A. Let's see, where did I miss here? Okay. Okay, when do I anticipate some M&A anticipation? Well, I think the plan was going to be after the halving event, but I mean, right now, Bitcoin being up so high, it's going to be tough. And the reason I say this, it's going to be tough because it's going to be a place where a lot of miners are still going to be profitable, even with all their equipment. So I don't know how much M&A is going to be going on there. And Bitcoin continues to go up much higher. It's going to make it possibly even more challenging to have some good M&As. I think what we might see is infrastructure buys, things like that, but I don't know if anybody's going to be getting acquired. And the ones that would get acquired, I don't know if you want to even acquire those because they either have debt, bad operations, or something like that. So it just doesn't really maybe make sense on that. Let's see. Seb, why do you think everybody doesn't see the same potential in Bitfarms as you do? I never really see it getting much love. I mean, we kind of saw the same thing with other stocks. We saw with IREN, we saw with Cleanspark, especially when they're diluting. That's when they don't get any love at all. And I was battling with that as well in basically 2023. We saw Cleanspark holding flat for the most part, going down maybe a little bit or not going up as much as the other miners. We saw Marathon pump huge, Riot pump huge as well. And Cleanspark was still kind of, at like 600 million market cap, 500 million market cap or something like that. And then once they come out and said they were fully funded to 16 exahash, the stock takes off and it's been on a tear ever since then, right? So I think the dilution, the question around the CEO, that's keeping things down. I think once those things get resolved, I think that's when we'll see, obviously, love for Bitfarms at that point. Because they do have good growth plan. As long as they can execute on the growth plan, they'll do great. But if they, for whatever reason, stumble on that down the road, it's not going to be the end of it, right? But it's definitely going to push them back a little bit. Next question. If Iris starts holding some BTC and moves HQ to US, what is your price prediction of BTC hits 150 to 200,000? At that point, well, they don't need to move to the United States. I think they're already stated they're going to be reporting quarterly, which is good because we've been kind of yelling at the rooftops here for them to do that because we're not seeing the same data for them as for other miners that are reporting quarterly. So they are going to be doing that. They heard the voices and they will be doing that. Bitcoin HODL, I don't think they're going to HODL anytime soon. So that doesn't really change things for us there. So the only thing we can really compare them on is operations, growth, efficiencies, uptime, things like that. How do they compare to the other miners? Since they can't have they won't get the benefit of the FASB rules for holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet, right? So Bitcoin that's at 70,000 now. If they bought, let's just say they HODLed 1 month of it, say they had 500 Bitcoin or something like that, and let's just say 12 months, Bitcoin goes up to 140,000. Well, that value is obviously a huge benefit to them because it goes up 100%. But they won't do it. So I don't know. It's going to be kind of tough if Bitcoin hits 150, 200,000. You're looking at 2x basically to 3x on Bitcoin. At that point, you're looking maybe 6 to 8x on IREN, somewhere around there, I would imagine. Cleanspark price prediction. My original target for them was $70, and this was going back to like 2022. The way I figured if things worked out well, and this was them getting only to a much lower hash rate than they're planning to get to, but since they're growing to a much higher hash rate, but they've also diluted a heck of a ton, the number still seems to be a pretty good price, conservatively. Now, if Bitcoin goes up much higher, things like that, right, they build out faster than we're anticipating, that price could obviously go much higher than that as well. So I'm not going to tell you it's going to go to $300 because I doubt that will happen. Plus, I don't want to be a moon boy, right? So I'm just going to give you guys kind of like conservative numbers where they could possibly get to. And you got to think, right? I mean, just a couple months ago, 6 months ago, they were at $2, $3 or something like that, $5, and they're already at 20 some odd dollars. And we're saying that it could still go to $70 or more. Let's see. Hi, Sebastian. Hope you are fine. I am. Thank you. Why do you think Riot is lagging so much? Riot is lagging because of their operations in Rockdale. That's the only real reason there. They've been also playing on the dilution trigger, ATM as well. So that has an impact on it, but more so I think it's on their operation side of things. Right? We want to see, of course, to kind of get plugged in, energized, and operating a lot more efficient and with better uptime. And I think if that happens, then the stock will start to recover. Hi, Sebastian. Do you think the Bitcoin demand versus offer will be higher or lower than the last halving? I think it might be higher because we have the spot Bitcoin ETFs, right? There's just a lot more interest in Bitcoin this time around than it was last time. And I mean, we're having Bitcoin rewards get cut in half. So you're going from 900 a day to 450 a day, along with the spot Bitcoin ETFs. That's why I would say it's probably going to be higher. If Paraguay bans crypto mining, will that hurt Bitfarms or do they get grandfathered? I think based on what we're hearing right now, it wouldn't affect miners that are already operating. It'd be for any new miners that want to start up operations in the country right now. So I believe Bitfarms already has operations. They're legal. They've been approved, and they already have plans approved to get to whatever their megawatts is going to be to get to 21 exahash. So I think that's all in line already. But we'll have to obviously see, maybe Bitfarms will come out with a statement during this week sometime saying, hey, this is what we know is going on. this is kind of what we're at right now, and kind of clear that up as well. But based on what we're reading, that's kind of the sentiment right now, is that they should be fine. How would you personally rank the top 3 miners? Hi from Sweden. Hello, and thank you. Top 3 miners. Depending on which metric you look at. If you look at efficiency, things like that, I would say possibly you could throw in there Cleanspark, obviously, efficiency, uptime, all that stuff. Who else? If you're looking for also growth, you would probably want to throw in there IREN, Bitfarms also as well, and Cypher, and then TeraWolf on that. Right? It's just difficult to pick top 3 because top 3 could actually change around later on depending on when they grow, how fast they grow, and things like that. But those are kind of the ones I would be looking out for. And then you can also add in there Core, right? Core has just come out of bankruptcy. They've been doing really well over the last 3 months. So I would even add them to it. Okay. Riot seems pretty undervalued considering their expansion plans and balance sheet. What are your thoughts on Riot and your price target? Are you in? I am not in right now, no. And the reason I haven't been into Riot is because of their operation side of things. More so than anything. And then also their uptime hasn't been that great. I'm looking for miners that have great uptime, great efficiency, great growth, right? Which Riot has great growth and they have a good HOW position and good cash balance sheet, but their operations hasn't been great. So I've been getting into Cleanspark, Bitfarms, and IREN as well. And then obviously recently here we could possibly also look at Core, Cypher, and TeraWolf into that mix as well. But my price target on Riot, that all depends greatly on Corsicana and how well they can deliver on that site. How much will their uptime improve and their efficiency as well, right? That's going to determine how much the price can actually go up. But I think they're undervalued from where they should be based on what they are right now and where they're going to be. So I think it's going to be still very good for investors getting into Riot potentially. I think right now it's kind of the lows on it, but we'll see. Let's see. Question, is Sandersville fully operational for Cleanspark now, or are they still waiting for the transformer to be fixed to get the rest of the power to become available? I believe they're still waiting on that one. I think that's the only thing left on that one, at that site to get done. But I think they're trying to build out the rest of the sites that they have in Mississippi and in Georgia to get to the 20 exahash, right? Which isn't too far away, about, 3.5 exahash left or something like that to install. So I think that should be done by the end of the first half. BTC reaches 300,000. Where do you see top for Bitfarms with 21 exahash? Let's see it. They're at 6.5 exahash right now. That's basically another 3x from where they are, depending also where the network hash rate is going to be at that point. But they're going to be definitely in a much better position at that point. So I think between like $15 and $30, if not better, somewhere where I would be looking at that point. Let's see here. Thanks, Seb, for the metrics. Will you revisit miners 2024 year-end price targets now post-March results or after Q1 earnings mid to late May? Looking forward to it. I think we'll probably do that after... no, I have all the metrics, now, or not the metrics, but the data on the quarterly results for the end of the year. We may do that in like a week or two. I got to run a bunch of numbers and see where things might possibly go. It's going to be a little bit more challenging with the network halving coming up in 2 weeks, basically. But I'll get that figured out, and we'll do a video on it. Let's see. Mera recently issued April 40 million new shares. There are now approximately 267 million shares outstanding. Shouldn't they now report 1.5 billion more in cash or about 3 billion? How does this ATM work? Well, I think the ATM, they can pull on the ATM, but that doesn't mean they have to pull on it right away. And that's basically what happens there. If they amend the ATM in any way, they will report as far as how many shares they have. And then also if you track what they report monthly as far as their cash on hand, you can follow that, but be careful because they don't sell much of the Bitcoin, so they need to use the cash from other things to pay for operations and things like that. So it'll be interesting. Let's see here. I read an article saying there's a shortage of Bitcoin in exchanges, so institutions are going to go and buy Bitcoin from miners. I see this as a good sign. Remember that there is a shortage, right? But the institutions are not going to go directly to the miners. There's really no reason for them to do that, mainly because if you think about it, the miners are mining in general right now in all, right? 900 Bitcoin a day. 900 Bitcoin a day. The companies that I cover equate to about 25%, 25% of the Bitcoin network right now. So they're getting, what is that? 25 times 9. That's 225 Bitcoin roughly per day. How much demand is there each day from the spot Bitcoin ETFs? It's a lot more than 225. Now, come halving event, that's going to go down to 112.5 or something like that, right? So there's still going to be a huge demand. Miners, even if all the miners wanted to sell per day their Bitcoin to the spot Bitcoin ETFs, there's just not enough. So price is going to have to go up one way or another. Let's see. Since Wolf commented about paying off $30 million debt next week, do you think it is worth buying the stock now, or should I wait, considering they still need to dilute a lot in order to get to 20 exahash? That's your call there as far as how you want to handle that. I know that they're saying that they're going to be paying off approximately $30 million next week, potentially. That is a good sign. That gets them down to about, $70 million in debt left for this year. And they're saying that they want to pay that off from operations, which is great, right? They don't want to dilute. But how long will that take them after the halving event to pay off the rest of the 70? They're saying possibly by the end of like Q3 or something like that, which would be great if they can do that. But then, yeah, that they're still going to need, obviously, capital to fund the growth beyond where they want to get to right now, which I think is, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think it's around 10 exahash or something like that they want to get to. And then beyond that, they'll either have to dilute, or maybe, and just maybe, if Bitcoin goes up high enough, maybe they can just use the cash flow from that to fund the growth. But that's still going to be only for maybe 9 to 12 months, right, where Bitcoin things are going well. And then Bitcoin could reverse back into a bear market. We don't know. Could continue to go up. But even if you do have dilution, I think as long as dilution is accretive to investors, right, and you're seeing that they're growing from 10 exahash to 20 exahash to 30 exahash, whatever it might be, and they have a pretty good track record of getting things installed and energized in a reasonable amount of time, then I don't see as dilution being a bad thing. I see it as a good thing. Let's see. Hi, Sebastian. Hi. Hope you are fine. I am. Why do you think? I think we already covered this. Why is Riot lagging? It's basically because of operations and possibly pulling on the ATM. I think we already covered that. Let's see. Question, what stocks are you thinking about buying next week? IREN, yeah, I think I'm going to buy a little bit more IREN, probably buy a little bit more Bitfarms. We'll see if we get a little bit more of a dip. If not, I'll probably still buy anyways. I think my averages start pretty low, so, and the pricing of the stocks themselves are pretty low, so I'll continue probably dollar cost average into them. Let's see. Question, are the warrants the reason why CORZ is not moving up? Potentially that is one reason, right? You also have them getting out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So I think investors are cautious right now, right? They want to see how they're doing after the restructuring and everything else. But the fear, obviously, of dilution there is when the warrants do get triggered, they will dilute shares. So I think that's part of the reason there as well. But they just need to continue to provide good updates like they have been here, good growth continuing, which they have been, and being cash flow positive, which I think is really important. So as long as we can see those things and they report at least a quarter or two of numbers where we can see those things, I think that's when investors will probably start flocking back into them. Let's see. If you had to put all your chips on either IREN or Bitfarms, who would you choose? Tough one. I'd put it on both because they're both going to grow into about 20 exahash, right? Bitfarms 21 exahash, IREN 20 exahash. The only thing is Hive has a little bit more HODL. Maybe that's the differentiator that takes them over the top. I don't know. But they're both undervalued right now, in my opinion. Question, CORZ mined the most in the last 2 months. Why is the market not recognizing them for this? Again, they got out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It's going to take time, right? When you get slapped in the face by a company you were invested in for whatever reason, for however long you were into it, and you got basically slapped in the face with bankruptcy on it, right? That doesn't leave a very good taste in your mouth, and to a lot of investors at that point. So it's going to take time. You just got to be patient. Any predictions on cheapest we could see by the halving for Cleanspark, IREN, or Bitfarms? That all depends on Bitcoin where it goes. I think we might be at the bottoms right now. But if we get any more dips on it, I think they're, at least by me, they're more than welcome. And it just allows me to buy more at the lower prices. So I say all for it, especially since we're still before the halving event, right? And we'll see how things progress after the halving. Let's see, do you think Bitfarms can still 5 to 10x on this halving? In this halving? Yeah, I do think so. As long as they can build out and everything else, you find a good CEO as well, right? I think they can. Okay. Good evening, Sebastian. Do the numbers support IREN outperforming Bitfarms? Who is predicted to have higher hash rate at the end of the year if all plans work out? I believe Bitfarms is supposed to get to 21 and IREN is supposed to get to 20 exahash. But things can change, right? We're still early. We're only in the 4th month right now. So we still have a long ways to go. But right now, it looks like Bitfarms could be the one with the higher hash rate, but that doesn't always equate to higher value in the company. So got to keep an eye on that as well. Let's see. Under what circumstances do you see miners going down in value after the halving event? Bitcoin going down. I mean, that's basically it. Either that or we get a Black Swan event where mining is banned in the United States, right? That's the only way I see them going down. But other than that, I think we're going to be going up. Since IREN is fully funded to 20 exahash and reporting quarterly, would you say their stock is set to start performing? Also, since they're fully funded 20 exahash, will they keep diluting for 30 exahash? That all depends on how well they can build out the infrastructure in, what is that facility there? I'm drawing a blank on it. In Texas. What is that? Childress, I think. I think that's Childress. If they can build that out, obviously that depends on how much they can actually put in hash rate. But right now, if they can get to 20 exahash by the end of the year, that would be great. And then them reporting quarterly, that's a huge boom, obviously, which is great to see. And then them reporting that they're fully funded 20 exahash is also great for the stock. So I think that in the short term and possibly in the long term, the stock is going to have obviously a huge uptick here in the days to come, potentially. Bitcoin goes up. And then we'll see how things play out. Hi, Sebastian. Thanks for everything. Been watching you for a while. Thank you. Could I ask? Sure, you can ask. What price do you see CORZ hitting during the bull run? If they start getting the love from investors again, from not only investors but institutions and things like that, they prove themselves that they are doing all the right things. I would think that they should be at least north of $15 a share, if not higher. But it all depends on how well they grow and everything else. Let's say hypothetical Bitfarms does get banned from Paraguay. Are you out? Well, luckily they don't have all their infrastructure in Paraguay, but they do have a lot that's obviously a plan for growth there. So that would depend on the news. Obviously, it would not be great. But then if they came out with saying, we're getting banned there, we're moving our infrastructure to here, and here's what we're doing going forward, and we're going to be delayed by a quarter or something like that, then that wouldn't be so bad. But if they say they're going to be delayed by a year, then it would be worse. Then I'm probably going to be out. And I'll probably move my chips over to something else. Let's see. Question, what miner looking to DCA next week? Bitfarms and IREN. Should we be concerned about Bitfarms if the BTC is less than 85 past halving? No. That is their all-in, that I calculated their all-in break-in price, which includes all cash expenses, right, that I could figure out. So that is all in costs on it, but they are getting newer miners, which if they increase their hash rate, that's going to lower their cost for all in cost. Also, the quarterly results for Q4 include a bunch of bonuses, things like that that you wouldn't normally see in the quarterly results in normal quarters, right? So that will actually lower their costs. So for a lot of the miners that I have the numbers on, it's actually a little bit higher because of bonuses, all that other stuff that they put in at the end of the year, okay? So keep that in mind as well. See here. Do you think Riot is going to dilute more? I think so. All the miners are going to be diluting, right? If they want to grow past 40 exahash to 50 to 75, 100, whatever exahash they want to get to, they're going to be diluting. Unless Bitcoin starts going to like 300,000, 500,000, at that point, they're going to be making so much money they can probably pay for all of it without having to dilute. Seb, can you speak on IREN's dilution plans? I don't know what their dilution plans are. What's necessary for future hash rate targets? They're fully funded to 20 exahash right now, so I think they're good there, right? It's growing beyond that. We'll have to see. They're also getting into AI side of things. Will that also help fund some of that growth that we're seeing there potentially? So we'll keep an eye on it. Okay, what is the rationale for miners being a multiplier of BTC? Is it because the ETFs, the coming supply crunch, and miners being a source of Bitcoin? It's kind of a couple of things. So obviously the supply crunch helps, but then also with Bitcoin going up in value, as we've seen in prior cycles, that means that the miners will at a certain point, when Bitcoin reaches its peak, be at like 90% profit margin, right? That is huge. So they're going to be basically printing money at that point, and that's why the miners get a huge multiple on it, because they can mine it at a much lower cost also than what you can buy at spot, right? So if the miners right now can basically mine Bitcoin for 60, 70,000, 80,000, whatever, and goes up to 200 and 250,000, right? You can see where that huge profit margin comes into play. Let's see. Everyone is talking about BTC being 150,000. What are your thoughts on the miners that can survive if BTC stays between 60 to 80,000 for the next 6 to 12 months? I think if that was the case, that would happen where Bitcoin stays at 60 to 80,000. Right now, we're seeing even at 70,000 with Bitcoin, we're seeing a lot more miners not having as much of a trouble staying afloat. The only thing that's questionable is how far will the network hash rate increase, right? Or will it go up? It's at 600 exahash roughly right now. If it goes up to 800, 850, 900 exahash by the end of the year, then it's going to be trouble if Bitcoin stays at the same prices. But that's not going to happen, right? We've never seen Bitcoin stay for duration, especially in the bull run, at those levels or in the same levels for a long period of time. We have seen, obviously, Bitcoin go way up and then come back way down, but we've never seen it to be stagnant for a long period of time. No one discusses who the miners sell their mined coin to. Coinbase is one of them. They also sell them at OTAs, right? There's some places where they would sell them as well, but it's just kind of all depending on who they deal with. Question, do you buy spot BTC ETF? If so, which ones? Will you be holding them or unload later? I do not hold spot Bitcoin ETFs because I actually hold spot Bitcoin. So I have that. I'm not buying any spot Bitcoin ETFs. I get charged the percentage fees, the holding fees, whatever it is, on it when I can just buy it directly. The ETFs are great for obviously like institutions, older people that aren't as tax savvy. They can do that, right? I'm a little bit more tax savvy. I can buy my own Bitcoin and hold it responsibly. Let's see. Is IREN total cost to mine a Bitcoin cheaper in newer Texas location than in original Canadian farms? I see to recall they mentioned very low costs in their first building in Texas. I think they are lower, and they are also talking about getting curtailment credits and things like that, which would lower their costs in general. But we'll have to see, right? They are just starting out in that facility, and it takes, I think, a good year before you can start applying to get credits and things like that on it. So we'll see how that one works out. Let's see. What are my thoughts on Mara? I mean, Mara's Mara. I guess that's the best way to say it. I think they have so much potential, but for whatever reason, they just continue to have operational issues for one reason or another, and that's the main reason I just wasn't able. That's the main reason I haven't been able to buy the stock, is because of that. If their operations were much better, I'd probably own the stock. I mean, Marathon has done great last cycle. They were up, 7,000% or something like that. Could they do it again this time? Sure. I mean, they're the biggest. They got the biggest HODL, so they get to take advantage of that as well. But their operation side of things that's the only thing that's really keeping me back from buying Mara right now. Let's see. Question, what do you think can make Bitcoin go lower after the halving and not come back up until the next halving? I don't know, World War III? Potentially, if that happens, maybe that would cause it to come down. A huge recession, potentially, right, that lasts more than a couple months. But other than that, I don't see how that's going to happen. I think the demand is going to just continue to rise and rise because it's spot Bitcoin ETFs. And the adoption rate is also increasing. Do you think Riot is late in the CORZ account facility progress compared to the halving? I mean, it would have been ideally if they could have gotten the facility up and running much faster. That would have been great, right? But it's a huge facility that they're building out there, and they're also doing immersion cooling in all those facilities, which obviously takes more time because you got to run the piping and the cooling for those immersion coolers and things like that. So it takes more time that way. But being in Texas, I think that's the way to go. But it just takes more time. So, and they're going to be supposed to be getting energized this month in April for the first part of it, which will be nice to see. And we'll see how they operate out of that as well. But it's better late than never, right? But it's not really too late. I think they were saying that they were going to be in this first half of the year getting that energized for a while. So I think we're good there. Let's see, your Hive looks like it has bottomed out. Do you agree that there is tremendous upside from here for Hive? I had Hive from 2017, 2018, all the way through last year. I sold it. I just did not see the growth there. They are very efficient when it comes to mining. They're also very judicious about their spending as far as SG&A and things like that. So from those standpoints, the company runs great. It's just I would have liked to have seen them grow more on their hash rate side of things. Then their plan is to be basically at 1% of Bitcoin network hash rate. I would have liked to have seen them be more audacious in their plans, right? Their growth plans. Trying to be in the top 5 miners. They're not doing that. They're happy with where they are. And I mean, the stock will still do well, Bitcoin going up, but I don't think it's going to outperform the others like Marathon, Riot, Cleanspark, IREN, Cypher, TeraWolf, and all those Bitfarms that are growing tremendously. Let's see. What is your prediction for Riot in this halving? Well, I mean, the stock is where it's at right now. We don't know what's going to happen going forward with Bitcoin and everything else, but I would imagine that if they start providing good numbers for Corsicana facility, that they are operating at much greater uptime and everything else, I think the stock will do much better going forward. What is the fair value of Cleanspark with Bitcoin at 100,000? Well, that's only, what is it, 40% away for Bitcoin to get there or something like that. So you're looking at maybe another, I would say maybe 50 to 100% increase in from where Cleanspark is at right now. Tough to say, right? You need Bitcoin to really go up much beyond that. I think more like 150,000 or something like that. Let's see here. How much debt does CORZ have? With the large amount of BTC they are selling, you think they're putting a dent in their debt? Yeah, I think they still had like what 300 some odd million left of debt, 400 million. I can't remember exactly what that number was, but that is also. And they might be doing a pretty good job on paying that debt down with Bitcoin price being up here. The tricky part comes in after the halving event, right, where their basically cost of Bitcoin goes up double, or if you want to look at it the other way, where their revenue comes down in half, but as long as Bitcoin continues to go up, that will actually increase. But yeah, we'll have to wait until we get Q1 results from them. That's kind of what I'm thinking the investors are kind of waiting for. When 95% of investors lose money, what makes you so confident in these kind of risky plays? Data. I have a lot of data on these guys, and I've been in this space for, gosh, what's it going on? Since 2017, so what is that, 7 years, right? 7 years in the space. And I've been tracking the miners here for the last 3 years. And I've been tracking Hive and a couple prior to that, and prior bull runs, and things worked out kind of the way I was seeing them. But I just didn't have the capital to deploy as much as I do now. So I think with the data, I'm more comfortable with it. Plus, I don't day trade. So I think a lot of people run into problems where they try to day trade, where they try to time the ups or the peaks and the bottoms, right? You're going to have trouble there. Or they're trying to day trade it. They think it's going to go down, so they sell it, but it actually ends up going up higher. Or, they buy closer towards the top and they sell at that point. I've been buying the miners here for the last 2 years and 3 months. Started buying Cleanspark and Cleanspark and Bitfarms in January of 2022, right, at $9 and $5 respectively. And I've continued to buy through the last 2 years, and I haven't sold anything. The only thing I sold was Hive because I didn't think Hive was going to be doing that well going forward. But I just buy and hold, right? And I've gotten really good average prices on both Cleanspark and Bitfarms. And that way I don't have to worry about if things go south on me because my average is really low. So I'm still up on all these guys right now. But was it painful in those 2 years? Yeah, I was seeing the stocks go down in price. But if you have conviction, you can see some of the data, what they're doing, and see how they're operating. You can see kind of a path forward where the stock is going to be doing a lot better. And luckily, it has worked out that way. But that's all based on the data. Let's see. Which is the best mining stock after the halving? That'll be tough to say. I mean, right now it's tough to say. It all depends on how, you could say, judicious they are about their expenses, right? So if they're keeping their expenses low, they should be doing much better than if their expenses were much higher, which I'm guessing a lot of the miners are going to be pretty frugal, I think, at that point, or are already frugal in Q1, just getting into the halving event. So they're preparing for it. But the best ones, I would still think would be like the top 5-7 miners here. Cleanspark, Bitfarms, IREN, Marathon, Riot, Cypher, Wolf, Core possibly as well in there. But we'll see. When you average out of the miners somewhere near the highs later this year or next, where will you move your money to? Potentially for the time being, probably into cash. Want to probably diversify a little bit into real estate as well. I'll have to keep an eye on that one, see if that one's getting a little too frothy or not. And then I may also pick up some shares in some other companies. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's still a ways away, I think. Is there a disconnect between the miners and BTC? A miner, Cleanspark, has had red 9 days straight. Bitcoin has not had that happen. Sometimes there's a disconnect and there's reasons for it. For Cleanspark, we got the ATM, right? That kind of obviously made the stock go down. We also had the Chief Executive Officer selling and the Chief Chairman selling as well, right before that. That didn't look great, and I think that's why. But there's reasons sometimes to disconnect, and sometimes there's no reason at all. Sometimes the stock just gets disconnected, and we have a rotation in from miners to like MicroStrategy or into altcoins or in Bitcoin, and then it rotates back. So it's all good there. Let's see, I covered that one already. How important do you think is the HODL of a miner? I don't think it's as important as it used to be. Right now we have the spot Bitcoin ETFs, and we're seeing it's not that important in the pricing of the company. If you look at Hut 8 has, what is it now, 600 million roughly in BTC HODL, and their stock is valued at like 800 million. So they're really getting valued more so on their HODL, but not on their operations. Whereas you see like Marathon or Cleanspark, they have a 20% of their market cap only in HODL, and they're getting valued more for the operation side of things, especially Marathon, right? Marathon has a much greater HODL than Hut, but their operations are also much larger and things like that. That's where they're getting really valued on that. So that's kind of where I see things. Let's see. If expansion in Paraguay gets boned, would you lean towards moving to IREN or a different miner? I'd probably lean more towards IREN at that point, if that happens. And maybe, I would have to start a position into some of these other guys. I don't have a good position in any of them right now, so I'd have to start all over. And then based on that, it would be just on the operational side of things, what's their growth plans, things like that. I have to take a look into all those things. But I think IREN would be probably the one, currently at least. So you covered that one already. What is your Bitcoin price prediction for BTC after the halving? My original prediction was going to be like 180,000, and this was before we knew that the spot Bitcoin ETFs were going to be approved. Now with the spot Bitcoin ETFs being approved, I don't know. I mean, we could be north of that, way north of that. We could be 250,000, we could be 300,000, or we could continue to go up and possibly reach 500,000. If the spot Bitcoin ETFs have the same impact on the price of Bitcoin as they did on gold, right, years back, that could be the case as well. So we'll have to see. Let's see here. Can you explain what the hash rate network is and how it works? Thanks, love your videos. Yeah, so just a top level view of it. The network hash rate is a collection of all the miners being plugged into the network. So one for easy terms, let's just say miner A has 10 exahash, miner B has 5 exahash. Network hash rate at that point is 15 exahash, right? And that is also then done to set the difficulty as well. So if hash rate goes down, difficulty gets adjusted. Difficulty is how difficult is it to mine a block, and they're trying to keep that at about 10 or a block every 10 minutes. Right now it's 144 blocks per day, roughly on estimate, and that's kind of the way things work. There's more into it, but that's kind of the easy version, I guess I could say. Let's see here. Has DMG announced what miners they are going to install to reach 2 exahash? Do you know what their joules per terahash will be? I don't know. If they did, I might have missed it, but I haven't seen anything yet. What are your thoughts on IREN's AI play and GPU farms? I think that is still questionable, right? We'll have to see what the profit margins are on it like. Bit Digital, I think, was one of the first ones that came out with a huge contract for, was it 35 million at first, then went up to like 50 million. But that stock is not getting appreciated for it, though, even though again, 50 million in revenue, because I think investors are looking to see what is that profit margin going to be like. So if that profit margin is at 50%, well, that's great. But if it's at 20%, 15%, 10% profit margin on it, well, that's not that great. You're getting 50 million, but 10% of that is only 5 million in profits. So we'll have to look at see how that all stacks up, right? And I think we'll get that information in the next couple of weeks when they do report Q1. And at that point, that might also, Bit Digital reports good numbers. That might also be a benefit to some of the other miners that are getting into the AI, HPC side of things as well. Let's see. Is Bitfarms fully funded to 21 exahash? Not, well, we don't know, right? They haven't reported they are, at least. I would like them to report that they are fully funded to 21 exahash. If they are, in fact, I think that would obviously put a lot of the concerns and ease the concerns as far as dilution is concerned. But I haven't heard anything yet. Okay. How do you see the competition between professional miners and public pools like Foundry and Pool after the halving? Well, I think it's going to depend on... No, excuse me. It's going to depend on the size of the miner, right? Marathon obviously has their own pool, Mara pool. And there's benefits to obviously doing it. And then you got also other miners like Riot, which is pretty large. You got Cleanspark, that's going to be pretty large as well. Eventually, they may also look into doing their own pool, right? Because they have so much. At that point, that's beneficial to them to possibly not pay that that BTC fees for using the pool, right? It's going to be beneficial to them, I guess you could say. So we'll see how that's going to work out. And that's one of the questions that I asked Matt from Cleanspark is, are you guys, or actually, it wasn't Matt, was it Matt? Maybe it was Matt. May have been Taylor also. I asked them what were their thoughts on doing their own pool, and then I said it's something that they would think about, obviously, down the road, but nothing that they are thinking about right now. So I think some of the smaller miners that are like 5 exahash or 10 exahash or less, something like that, they'll still continue to pool their resources because it just makes more sense for them to do that at that point. Let's see. Do you think that when BTC crosses 100,000, retail FOMO look kicks in for the ETFs and then miners take off? Parabolic, they went parabolic last cycle without ETFs. Yeah, so I think once we get into the FOMO stage, 100,000, 150,000, whatever it might be, you're going to get obviously FOMO in. You got the spot Bitcoin ETFs, more adoption, getting into it. So we could definitely do a lot better than we did last cycle, potentially. But that is yet to be determined. Let's see here. Your Cleanspark price target is still the same if they do another dilution. They're already doing another dilution of 800 million right now. We don't know if they're pulling on it directly, but yeah, my price targets would stay the same because their hash rate growth has been keeping up with it. So, and actually with them getting to potentially 32 exahash and then 50 exahash, price targets could possibly go up higher from that. That makes sense. Let's see. What percentage of your investment portfolio is in miners? What are your other investments, if you don't mind me sharing? So, yeah, I mean, majority of it is in, I would say probably more than 50% is in miners. So that's Cleanspark, Bitfarms, IREN. And then I also have Bitcoin, right? That's the other part of it. A couple of altcoins as well. What else do I have? I have Rivian. I own 100 shares of Rivian. I own more, but I realized that Rivian is a much longer term play on it. It's like 5 to 10 to 15 years play on that one. And I saw more potential here in the miners within the next year or two to have a much better upside potential. So I sold a bunch of my Rivian shares and got into more on the miner side of things. So I'm very heavy on the miner side of things. Opinion at Hut, they have potential. They got the cash. They got the HODL obviously there. They just need to grow. I think, I don't know. They're looking more towards, it seems like, the managed services, which is more less, I would say, less expensive to build out and things like that, right? Whereas self-mining costs obviously more, so they're trying to be very frugal with their cash and how they're using it. They're trying to get as much return on that. And I mean, they're right now at, well, we're 12 days away from the halving event. If they were going to be building out, they should have been doing it probably like last year. Right, so I think they're kind of behind the ball a little bit on that. And maybe, just maybe, I know that they're saying that they're evaluating the miner prices and things like that. Maybe if they can find a good deal, maybe they can finally pull the trigger and change out some of the older miners that they have and everything else and add on their hash rate. But I think that's kind of where they're missing it, is where investors are looking for, right? Investors are looking for growth. And what do we see with Cleanspark? Growth. What did we get from it? We had, they're up 700% or something like 500% right now from the 52-week lows because of growth, operations, uptime, all those things. And they were growing their HODL at that same time. So there's a combination of things. I don't think HODL does everything for any of them. And not growing is obviously not beneficial to them as well. So we'll have to see how they perform. But it's kind of, they had a new CEO. I'll just leave it at that. We'll see how they do. I'm rooting for everybody here to do well, and I wish they would obviously install more hash rate or at least replace the hash rate that they do have that's old. But we'll see. Has Cleanspark started dilution from the new 800 million ATM? I don't know. Possibly. We'll have to see on that one. They diluted 500 million in like 60 days or something like that in the last 3 months. So they could possibly be doing it right now, especially if they have deals that they're working on or something like that to buy out or something. So they might be pulling on that. Do you think tomorrow's eclipse will influence the Bitcoin price? Yeah, I think I've read someplace that the eclipse is going to cause major power outages and all that stuff. We'll see what happens there. If that happens, I don't know what that. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't even want to think about that. But I don't know if it's going to influence the Bitcoin price. We'll see. Let's see. Do you think the miners will be going down a bit during the halving? In the past, they have. This time, it's a different cycle, right? I don't know. We'll have to see. Let's see. Do you think the ETFs are drawing potential investors away from the miners? No. The investors who are already in miners are a little bit more sophisticated investors than you would find from the ETFs. At least I think, right? This is basically a mom and pop getting exposure to Bitcoin ETF because somebody told them that they should put at least 1% into it, right? And then this just makes it a lot easier for those folks to do it. The people that were investing in the miners were already investing in the miners last cycle. This cycle, they've been in them already. They've been trading them up and down. They're going to continue to do it because they see it as a leverage play on Bitcoin. Let's see here. Okay. It is not a miner, but I would love to hear your view on MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is basically a Bitcoin proxy to an extent, right? They have a huge HODL position, so they're actually doing better than the ETFs, I think, are doing as far as appreciation is concerned because of how much they HODL. But I like the way that Mike Alfred has stated it before, that the reason they can do this now is because Bitcoin price is relatively low. But as Bitcoin price goes up for MicroStrategy, it's obviously going to cost a heck of a lot more for them to either issue debt or to dilute, right? So there's possibly a timeline where they can do it, and they're doing it at the right time right now, at least. Eventually, it will be possibly too expensive for them to buy more. But we'll see. Yeah, I think we'll see on that one. Let's see. Do you think Iris Energy can reach 30 exahash next year, Q1 2025? If they build out their Childress facility, I think they can, but just depends on that. And the miners availability. If they can get miners at that time, I think that they could do it. Let's see. So if Bitfarms gets funded dilution, right? So if Bitfarm gets funded dilution, will get them at around 30 million or more. You're talking about shares? Yeah, I think it was going to be somewhere around there. Let's see, I'm catching up to your guys' questions here. Let's see. Okay. Will Mawson or the smaller miners get bought out by the bigger miners after the halving? I don't think so. I don't think they want the headache or the debt that some of these guys have. Plus, some of these guys like Mawson has hosting, right? Which a lot of the bigger guys don't want to deal with hosting. They just want to get the data centers and the infrastructure to put their own miners in. So I think that maybe they would buy the facilities, but not the whole business. At least to me, it doesn't make any sense to do that. Question, do you think it's likely that the fees for HPC will drop once the initial excitement for AI dies down? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Have you guys heard Elon Musk say that there is a huge shortage of AI space or AI computing and things like that going forward? So as long as there's going to be a huge shortage, and that's the wave of the future, right? That's kind of Web 3.0, whatever it might be, or the next technical evolution in society and things like that. I don't know. I don't know if, yeah, I don't know if, I don't think that, I'm just rattling in my mind right now. I don't think that the AI side of things is going to stop anytime soon. I think it's going to continue to grow. Let's see here. Your right prediction, if they can improve their operations and with the CORZ kind of facility, well, if they can operate really good there, we're looking at possibly them being at like $40, $50, if not higher, depending how fast they can grow, right? So all the miners here, as long as they can grow and things like that, they'll do a lot better growing after the halving event. Let's see. All right, I think I'm catching up. Let's see your question. Would it not make sense for MicroStrategy to acquire a mining company? I mean, they got the money to do it. They could if they wanted to, but there's obviously headaches with it, right? So, and the way that they've been doing things recently has been kind of working out for them, right? But they could definitely get a miner and mine Bitcoin at a much lower cost. What if they bought out all the miners, at least the ones that are public or something like that? Or they could buy out some of the private miners as well. Let's see here. Do you think Cleanspark drop more before having? It could, right? There's nothing that says that it can't. There's nothing that says that all the other miners can't drop either. But you gotta have a longer time frame horizon on these guys. So if you think they're going to go up much higher, buy the dips. That's what I've been doing. Okay, I think we're pretty much caught up on everything. I don't see any new questions. So we've been going here for an hour and 15 minutes or so. So thank you guys so much for coming in to watch this. Greatly appreciate it. Hope you guys did enjoy it. And then during the week, we'll also take a look at, I think, the break-even numbers for some of these miners as well. I think I have all the numbers plugged in from the quarterly results right now. I'll double-check my work on that as well, and we'll take a look at that sometime this week. And we're still waiting on a couple miners to provide the operational updates for March, which I said is Stronghold, Annie, and Mawson as well. But those guys usually report like 2-3 weeks out after the beginning of the month. But that is it. Okay, so have a great night, everyone. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then.